that's my short story. Okay. Okay.
And you can pass to the next person.
Oh, how about, well, I can see Stephen right there.
Thank you, Alison. And I'm
Okay.
Stephen Lipsky. I live out in East Hampton, but prior to moving to East Hampton, I lived in and grew up in the city of Newton. And I was a member of well, it wasn't called the city council at the time, it was the Board of Aldermen. Uh, when I left, Allison came aboard. So together we're an awesome tag team. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm extremely excited, not merely about this webinar, but about the Make Polluters Pay. It is, let's not kid ourselves, one of the most substantial pieces of legislation I've ever been involved with, and I suspect it might be the same for you. It is incredibly important, and it's going to be, worth the effort. And this is why we're having this tonight, because one of the things that we can all do is pass municipal resolutions. So that's tonight's goal, and I look forward to going to do that. So thank you so much, Alison, for joining us, and I want to thank John as well. But Nina, I don't know if you want to, Nisha, if you want to introduce yourself first,
Oh,
because
it doesn't matter, but I'll
no,
go.
go ahead, because
I'm
John can follow you.
Anisha Swinton. I've been with Food and Water Watch for I'm going on 16 years now. I cover the New England states and also work on our national Stop Microplastics Now campaign. I am working on the Make Polluters Pay in Connecticut. Excited to see this being really gaining steam in Massachusetts. And I'm also very excited to hear from my colleague, John, from New Jersey, who has been doing amazing work on Make Polluters Pay there. Hello, John.
Hey, yeah, happy to be here. Joining from New Brunswick, New Jersey, where I'm with the Food and Water Watch team here as the lead organizer for the Polluters Pay Act in New Jersey, formerly known as the Climate Superfund Act. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about municipal resolutions. They've been an excellent tool in our campaign in New Jersey, and it feels like we are on the cusp of getting this passed in New Jersey, and we've built so much momentum. So want to share what I know here tonight. I'll pass it back to Olivia to continue facilitating.
Wonderful. Thanks everyone for those intros. Well, moving on without further ado, I want to give a quick introduction for those of you who might not be super familiar with what is Make Polluters Pay, what is this campaign, and sort of where does it stand. So Make Polluters Pay is a campaign to establish a climate superfund in the state of Massachusetts. So the way that would work is it would look at what are the needs, the costs that our state has faced for adaptation and resilience over the past 30 or so years. And then it would look at how much does that cost our state, and it would assess all of the biggest fossil fuel companies who have over a certain threshold of global emissions. So all the big companies like Exxon, Shell, BP, and such. And it would hold them proportionally responsible for those costs. So economists have estimated that those costs are on the order of about $25 billion for our state. And so we're looking at about that much money that would be flowing into our state to fund essential projects in various Massachusetts communities. So that could look like upgrading stormwater infrastructure, making upgrades to public transit, even things like healthcare programs that are related to climate. So it can really fund a broad variety of needs around climate. And as it stands, towns are woefully underfunded for this kind of thing. It's really something that's falling on local taxpayers, and it shouldn't be that way. And it's also just not sufficient. And so that's kind of the aim of this campaign, is to provide a financial mechanism that's also very fair. With if you cause a mess as a corporation and you pollute the environment, and that creates an abundance of risks to our communities, then you should be held liable for that. And so it kind of follows from that premise. And then where it stands now is that this campaign was introduced in the Massachusetts State House, and it has been sent to study, which is an unfortunate outcome. We were able to sort of move some of the legislators away from, more opposition standpoints are like from a more passive place and more towards support, which we've seen to show that pressure works. So people have been putting pressure on their legislators, and that has been able to make some progress so far. And we see that if we continue to mount pressure on our legislators like we have been, which is one of the goals of this campaign, then we should be able to hopefully pass the bill next session. And so that's where municipal resolutions play a role, is that in this moment, when not as much can be done in the legislature, we're really hoping to organize in our local communities and show support there so that we can continue to show our elected officials that this campaign is not over and that people are still really interested in this. So I will now pass to Nisha.
So why does passing a local resolution matter? Municipal resolutions are really pretty amazing in my eyes. Municipal resolutions demonstrate your town or your city's position clearly to the state and can help influence state legislation, exactly what we want to do now today. Municipal resolutions are also a vehicle of getting to know and organize in your community that you've been there for 45 years or 3 years. They provide opportunities for community members to unite around matters of a broader or more universal concern, such as making polluters pay. Municipal resolutions also provide an opportunity to create champions to advance the cause among elected representatives and constituents in our communities. They are an amazing mechanism to really, when we think grassroots, think locally, act globally. Well, for this reason, act statewide. We really love the idea of passing a ton of municipal resolutions on Make Polluters Pay in the state of Massachusetts to really build up that collective movement and momentum to pass the statewide bill. And with all of that, I'm excited to introduce John. As you heard before, he's our New Jersey team member, senior organizer for Food and Water Watch, and worked with our team in New Jersey to pass over 70 local resolutions, including 5 counties, to support the statewide Make Polluters Pay bill there. So I'll pass it on over to John to share his wisdom.
Thanks, Nisha. So yeah, in a moment, I'm going to take you back to December of 2024. But before I do, just like jargon can be hard. So we're going to start with how legislation works. A piece of legislation, which I'm going to call a bill because it's shorter, is normally introduced into the state legislature, which I learned today in Massachusetts is called the Great and General Court of the state of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I'm going to call it the state legislature. And it normally goes into one of or both of the chambers. So there's like a House of Representatives and a Senate. In New Jersey, we call the House of Reps the Assembly. The details don't matter. The process is basically the same, which is a bill gets introduced in one or both chambers. It gets heard in committees, which are sort of big milestones for the campaigns to get it passed through a committee, and ultimately receives a vote on the floor of both chambers. If you have a bill in both, 2 versions of the bill, sometimes they have to meet and figure out the differences between, but it's a pretty, there's a lot of steps, but ultimately it's a pretty simple process. You have a bill, you generate support, you move it forward. So on the next slide, I want to take you back to 2024. Our version of the Polluters Pay bill, the Climate Superfund Act, has introduced in September of 2024. And we had really strong support from members of the Senate Environment Committee, which almost immediately moved it to a hearing in December. We had 9 out of 40 of our state senators on the bill, but only 4 out of 80 of our assembly members co-sponsoring it. We'd already, gotten a lot of people to send emails, we'd scheduled a couple lobby meetings. But beyond that, there wasn't like a clear pathway to move the bill forward, through sort of a lengthier legislative process and especially win over leadership. But we did know a couple things. We knew that between December 2024 and January 2026, That was like our runway to get the bill passed. Our legislative session ended in January 2026. And we knew that, it'd be a little bit of a setback if we didn't make it by then. We also knew that there was a lot of leverage around the budget process, which was coming up in June of 2025. We also knew that there were elections, which generally the elected officials in our state legislature care about what people are saying during elections. And the entire assembly was up for election in November of 2025. So we honed in on this idea of local resolution statements by municipalities and county governments. That's the problem.
Oh, my Zoom just crashed. Sorry, everyone. Did it just end the screen share?
It
Yes.
did.
Oh my gosh. Yep, I've got a dinosaur of a computer. Sorry, everyone. Here we are. Can everyone see this again?
Yes, take us to the next slide.
There we go. All right, take it away, John.
Okay, awesome. So in New Jersey, to be frank, we still operate in an era of political machines in New Jersey, so it's extremely hierarchical. The Speaker and the Senate President hold a lot of power, and those positions are often brokered between like different county Democratic parties. And so those regional political organizations or like regional, sometimes they're called the institution, hold a lot of power. So in order to pass the bill, we knew that we would need a strong majority of legislators to formally support the bill through co-sponsoring. But in order to get them, we would need a lot of local electeds who make up the party apparatus locally, and like party leaders to support, because we figured, as a bottom-up approach, that state legislators will listen to the mayors and council members in their district, and the leadership, if there's enough legislators in support, will have to listen to the members of their caucus. And so we got to work on, we did something very similar to what we're doing tonight. We had a huge potluck. We introduced this sort of resolutions guide, put out a call to volunteers, with the basic framework of like anybody can take this guide and run with it. You can pass a resolution in your town. It's no problem. And we did. People just started going back to their towns and emailing their council members and mayors, going to town council meetings. In some key districts and counties, some volunteers took lead coordinating people in other towns, or they just started going to other towns' council meetings. And ultimately, we noticed folks were forging stronger relationships with their local elected officials and starting to become more influential in their communities by connecting this state issue to what was needed locally, which is funding for climate adaptation projects, resilient infrastructure, et cetera. And so throughout 2025, we made this a huge focus. And on the next slide, I want to talk about the results. So starting off with the bad news, we did not get it passed yet. We did not make the cutoff for January 2026. But what we did do is we got 70 municipalities and 5 counties out of 21 counties in New Jersey to pass resolutions. We had county executives and county commissioners and mayors and council people attending and speaking at events. We had a press conference of just local elected officials at the big, League of Municipalities conference in Atlantic City. We got in the press because of that. We would have local climate town halls where it wasn't just activists and residents, but like the mayor of North Brunswick or the council president of Edison, New Jersey, coming to speak. And state legislators would join these local events too. And it became a movement that wasn't just activists, wasn't just like residents, but like even the electeds were getting involved, all calling on leadership to move the bill forward. And where we ended up at the end of the legislative session was 46 out of 80 members of the New Jersey Assembly on the bill. So a voting majority, and 19 out of 40 senators with the commitment of the Senate president to move it forward if we could get it to move in the assembly. And so that was sort of our starting point going into this new session. There were also those elections I talked about that expanded a Democratic majority. So that was 57 out of 80 Democrats to work with in the assembly. We're doing well with these new members who are more progressive, brought in on the wave from last year. And in November of last year, we brought more than 200 people to the State House on like a Monday morning for a giant mobilization during a committee hearing. So we really have been able to build so much power by just engaging people locally and then getting them to the State House when it's the time, but also just continuing to organize support. So anyway, I hope this has been a helpful framework going into the discussion of the nuts and bolts of how to pass these resolutions. But I just want to show you that it's like, if you do this right, and a lot of people do it, it can really make your Polluters Pay Act, your Climate Superfund Act, the top of the legislative agenda. So yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you, John.
I think Stephen was going to introduce Alison.
I am, and right below me is Alison Leary. As I mentioned before, Alison joined the Newton City Council in 2013, so she is already a veteran, but more importantly, she was a champion for this bill on the council, and we want to take a moment or two, Alison, if you'd be kind enough to tell us how you did it. How did you pass a resolution in Newton, Massachusetts?
Well, I will tell you, passing the resolution is the easy part. Getting action in our general court, which I think we share with New Jersey as being very hierarchical. So Massachusetts has 351 cities and towns, and each community has their own way of doing things, and cities do them differently than towns. It's really, there's each community has their own culture and often a way of doing things along things like resolutions. So how I came to it, as I mentioned, I've been very strong on the environment, so I have a lot of connections. I'm very involved. I try and stay aware. But really, what's most important to me as an elected official is actually the boots on the ground, the people in my community that also care about these issues. And last summer, one of those folks who I know quite well, she's on 350.org, among other things, asked to meet for coffee to talk to me about passing Make Polluters Pay resolution. So we sat down and talked about it, and I was so thrilled to see this kind of bill that would actually call polluters accountable for the tremendous damage they've been doing to the environment, and to actually have some funds that will help communities to implement efforts to mitigate climate impacts. I immediately went and thought about, stormwater issues. I mean, that's a huge expense. And with the increasing precipitation and rain events, we're flooding like many other communities, and having funds that would allow us to improve our green spaces and not just our stormwater infrastructure, which is never going to be able to manage a 100-year storm, but improving our green spaces, our parks, not only just making them for people to enjoy, but also to protect our community in the event of heavy rain. So that's one example where my mind went when I heard about this opportunity. So I was like, of course, I'll sponsor this resolution. And in Newton, it's fairly straightforward. We have a docket tracking system. So I just went ahead and I put in the information. I checked with my folks that were working on this bill about making sure they gave me the language that would go with the bill number. And so I docketed it, and it came before our Programs and Services Committee. And we had a representative 350.org there to talk about it. And every single counselor was fully in support of it. So this went to the general court, and it goes to our Newton representatives as well as the leadership, so that they know that this resolution is the city of Newton, the city council has supports this, has approved it, I believe, and it was also approved by the entire city council, which is a body of 24. So we all voted for it. It was unanimous. And we sent that. So that's how that happened. But the hard part really is the general court even though we're a super blue state, there's no democracy in the general court. It's very hierarchical. Leadership buys, kind of pushes everything around and makes decisions about what's going to come up for a vote. So it unfortunately went to study, which is a way of killing the bill, or at least certainly delaying it. So we certainly have to follow through with our representatives and have the lobby days and do the outreach and keep in communication so that we can follow this bill and continue to support it and find opportunities to put pressure on leadership to get it passed. So that's sort of where we are now. And I'm happy to take any questions if folks have it.
Yeah, we're gonna have a robust Q&A at the end of this call in about like 15 minutes. So everyone do jot down your questions, your comments. Allison and John and the rest of us will be here to chat with you. Just wanted to lift up something that John wrote in the chat. Allison's point right now is really big. Your local electeds should care about this because climate costs are already straining local budgets.
Mm-hmm.
They want and need this money. You just have to explain to them that making polluters pay is an option. Seriously, let's just give them the facts about how much money this is going to bring into local communities. That's just beautiful and powerful. But thank you so much, John. Thank you so much, Allison. This was very inspiring. And we hope that everyone, so I'm just going to turn on my computer screen, just got very bright. We hope that everyone got some inspiration and motivation to pass a local resolution in your town or city. The more and more towns that pass, the more and more towns that pass this, it becomes part of this larger movement, which we are just so excited to finally pass Make Polluters Pay in the state of Massachusetts. So passing our local resolution is more than just a procedural vote. It is a powerful catalyst for reclaiming your community's voice and driving tangible change from the ground up. Getting that money into these towns, amazing and important. Ultimately, a resolution is your community's chance to stand together, speak clearly, and shape the future of the place you call home. So we are just excited to be here to pass these resolutions with you. And you're not, reinventing the wheel here. These are, this is the list of all of the communities in Massachusetts that want you to join them in passing a resolution. Beautiful list. I hope that some of you are proudly from these towns and some of you hopefully are not from these towns, so we can add to this list in the coming year. So with all of that, we have really spent a lovely amount of time on developing a nifty guide to walk you through all of the things. And with that, I'm going to pass it on over to Stephen to kind of go through this really amazing toolkit for you to use in passing your local resolution. So hello, Stephen.
Hello. So yes, we do have this